Welcome everyone to the August 1st, 2024 HOF Advisory Board meeting. Thank you for joining us. We typically have been starting with our public comments. If there are public comment present, I do not think we have public comment present, so we'll move through the agenda as it's written and start with the roll call. Lena Andrews. Tanika Harris is present. Karen Garrett, I did not see. Ellie Fisher. Present. Councilwoman Deb Gross. Jerome Jackson. Welcome to Deidre Washington. Thank you for joining us. Marcus Reed. Alan Cisco. James Reed.
Present.
Adrian Wanaha present. Kelly Ware, we believe her last meeting was last month.
Yeah, I did send an email to confirm. I haven't heard anything back, so this is probably
The confirmation.
the confirmation that she is in fact on board. So next month's roll call will reflect that.
So we do have a quorum, but we are a small group. As we go through the agenda, if we're not joined by more members, we may push a little bit of dialogue forward so we can have more membership for the conversation, but we will bring that up as the meeting progresses. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, can I have a motion to approve?
It's Ellie Fisher. I'll motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion from Ellie Fisher. Do we have a second?
Tanika Harris, second.
Thank you, Tanika. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any abstentions? Thanks, everyone. Again, we don't have public comment, but if we do have anyone who joins us, we can ask for public comment again at the end of the meeting. All right, we've got lots to talk about.
Absolutely. So starting off strong, we're going to be talking about the 2023 annual report. Just a quick review. These are some highlights. The full report was sent to your emails, HOF Advisory Board, so you can check out everything that's on it if you haven't already. But just going over what we have here on the left, we have all of our programs, the amount we spent on them, and then the amount of residents served or units financed. Interesting to note is legal assistance program punches way above its weight with the amount of people it helps for the amount that it costs. And that's also true for the housing stabilization program. These two represent the programs that help the most amount of people, which is certainly one way of evaluating the Housing Opportunity Fund, but definitely not the only. Sort of on the flip side, the rental gap program and the homeowners assistance program use a lot of the money and help relatively less people. But there's a conversation to be had about the types of impact that these have and, you know, how we should be valuing them. But just interesting to keep in mind. Over on the right side, for all of the different programs, I think with the exception of demonstration dollars, we have some sort of highlight, either a quote from somebody that used the programs or a story about them. This was the quote that I found the most interesting, that I found most impactful when gathering them for the annual report. This is from Annette Fetchko from the Bethlehem Haven. And this project was an RGP project where we spent $4.2 million, or I think we were a part of that 4.2 million. And they were able to create a trauma-informed therapeutic safe space for 26 women who had, you know, come from very bad situations. And now we were able, through some of the URA funding from HOF, they were able to take the shelter and turn it from dormitory style, really just doing as much as it can with that, as little as it had, to a really, really nice space. I had the opportunity to visit it. And, you know, it's very beautiful and everyone has their own rooms and it's just a much healthier, safer environment. So this is just a tangible touch of what the HOF has done in the last year and you know what we should be striving to do, because this made a big difference on all 26 of those women. So again, just something to keep in mind. Are there any questions about this before we move on?
I'll just say a big thank you to Eric for all of his hard work putting the report together, and as well as our communications staff at the URA, and program staff who helped to get the data into the report. So I just want to say,
Woohoo, no comms. Sorry.
Not to mention Kesey and I.
yeah, really, it's team effort. But
Yeah, big team effort, but yeah, for those of you who haven't seen yet, it is quite nice. You know, this graph is only the beginning, so I encourage you to go check it out if you haven't already. All right, moving up to wrapping up the annual allocation plan survey. We officially broke the record from the previous year with a total of 662 surveys completed citywide, which accounts to approximately 70% of all Pittsburgh neighborhoods had at least one response. We will have much more detailed information about that and everything else available for next month's meeting. And sort of flowing straight past that into the annual allocation plan timeline. This is our planning, and we're going to talk about how the annual allocation plan is really done, especially for members that have not participated before.
I'll
do you want to take this?
Yeah, so yeah, we have a lot of new members we recognize, and you know, every year, this is a major undertaking, so it's always good to just sort of sit back and say, okay, so what's going to happen next, and what does that look like, and why do we do that? So wanted to take some time to talk through that. So you know, as Eric just mentioned, the survey has now closed as of yesterday. So you know, the URA, you know, we will take the next month to really analyze all the data coming out of that survey and put it into a digestible report that we can present to the advisory board at the September meeting. You know, they'll give really good rundowns on feedback that we got through that report, the demographics of who we heard from as a part of that report, we didn't hear from, so that we can keep those things in mind as we move forward and think about the decisions for next year's funding. So we're going to be working hard to do that, to prepare for the September meeting, as well as making some recommendations from URA staff. You know, over the years, you know, we have provided some recommendations just, you know, through our operations of the programs, you know, sort of what staff thinks. You know, so we'll provide that data and information to you all as well, so you can incorporate that, you know, into your thinking. So that'll all be preparing for the September meeting. And then at the September meeting, you know, we'll present all of that information, as well as some improved expenditure reporting that we're working on right now, to make sure that we can show you for each program how much has been allocated to that program over the lifetime of the program and over each year, and how much has been spent, how much is currently under commitment. You know, we'll have all of that to present to you in September as well, so that you have that data to also think about. We're looking at 2025 and where we want to place HOF dollars within these programs. So that'll be September. We will be able to provide all of that to you. And in September, we will then ask you to take all of that data and information, and then each of you as advisory board members will then individually fill out the allocation plan worksheet, which we'll show you in just a second what that looks like. And that's really, you know, each of you individually will give your thoughts on, you know, what do you think the overall allocation should be, what should each program receive. You know, you'll fill that out, send it to us. We will, again, analyze all of that and put it together into a presentation that we can then provide to the advisory board at the October meeting. So you'll be able to see what all of your fellow advisory board members think about what next year's allocation should look like. And then at that October meeting, you will then be able to use all of that information to talk and to decide as a group collectively, you know, what a draft allocation plan should look like for 2025. And that really is the goal of that October meeting, that there is a draft that comes out of that meeting. So that we can continue to move correctly along the timeline that we need to hit for, the HOF legislation. So coming out of that October meeting, the URA will then post the draft plan that the advisory board member recommends. We'll post that publicly so that people can give us feedback on that plan. We will collect that feedback and we will bring that feedback to you all at the HOF's November advisory board meeting. At that advisory board meeting, the expectation would be you would utilize any public feedback that we do receive to then collectively decide on what your final recommended plan would be for 2025. That allocation plan draft then goes to the URA's board of directors to be approved by that body, and then it would be voted on and approved at city council by the end of the year. Would be the goal. That's legislatively what we need to do so that it can be included in the city's 2025 budget. So that's the timeline. That's what we are tasked with over the next few months, and what we'll be working towards. So if you want to go to the next slide. So then this is what the worksheet looks like. Each of you will get a copy of this in September and you'll be asked to fill it out.
They were also.
That's right, you were emailed a copy already, so you should have been able to see that. But essentially, you're going to be just filling in the fillable blocks for each program. You will see that it is broken down by AMI levels because again, the HOF legislation does mandate that 50% of the overall funding each year is allocated and utilized for families and individuals at or below 30% AMI. And 25% of the overall HOF allocation is used for families and individuals at 50% AMI and below, and then 25% is supposed to be for families and individuals at 80% of area median income or below. So traditionally, if you want to fill out the worksheet and try to break it down by those AMI brackets, that's really helpful. But I would say focus more on what you think each program should get as a total allocation. And then, URI staff can help and sort of do the math. Yes, okay. If we're trying to make sure that overall 50% is used for 30% AMI, then what does that break down by program? We can help with some of the, harder percentages in math that trips you up. But we really want to see, what do you think total the rental gap program should receive? What do you think total, legal assistance should receive and so forth? So yeah, that'll be your task coming out of next month's meeting is to fill that out. And we will keep working and refining the allocation plan from there. So does anybody have any questions about that? Or any thoughts about that?
I have a question.
Yes, Ellie.
So when we look at the, the history, the finances, it says like what was allocated for each program. You guys are making sure they fall under those percentages
Right.
within those, right? So we don't.
Yeah, you don't, yeah, correct.
Thank you for that.
And we have found in our discussions, when we start to try to discuss the percentages in the meeting, when we're talking about the totals, that gets very confusing.
Yes.
So the URA has been gracious enough to, take all of the commentary away, do those calculations and bring them back. We did get into quite a little debate about that last year that really absorbed a lot of time and didn't have a lot of outcome related to, we want 28% over here, 43% over here. That really didn't work well. So when we get into this, we'll all sort of see, if you haven't done it before, some of the conversation when you try to get into the minutia sort of takes away from the larger whole.
Yeah.
So we'll try not to do that this year.
That'll be the goal. Thank you for the question, Ellie. Anybody else have any questions? I know for some of you, it's the first time going through this process, so if you do come up with questions outside of these meetings or during the meeting, like, please ask. We'd be happy to provide any answers, and guidance, that you might need.
And also just one piece of advice. So when you're looking at the categories, some of the programs really don't lend themselves as well to different AMI categories. So you'll see some of them are blocked out,
Yes.
but there's also, there's a finesse about maybe some of these don't work as well in some of the income brackets. And to that end, just remembering that some programs, depending on how heavily they're resourced, they don't fit as well into the buckets. So you will hear a bit of a dialogue about that as well as we have the conversation. That also was part of the equation last year where people were getting tripped up. I think that we all have a commitment to the 30% AMI. And as much as we can do there, we want to do. But we do have to be mindful of how that translates when you pull the money forward. The deeper the subsidy, the less of those numbers you're going to see. So you may see a deeper subsidy and then lower numbers served. So also not to get too into the weeds on, but we served 174 and maybe next year, because we did a focus in a different income category, it may be less.
Those are the debates and discussions to come.
Yes.
And it's always a really fruitful process, I think, and a difficult one, but that is what we have to look forward to for the next few months. So
Can I just add something? It's not so much a question. I do understand this. I recognize the importance of it, but I also understand that Councilmember Gross is not on here, so it's kind of it may go on deaf ears. But I would be remiss if I did not highlight the importance of us considering and thinking about expanding the AMI level. We often cap at 80%, and just in this economy, looking at just exploring moving it up to 115%. I know Tammy has talked about this before at nauseum, and it's just being on the ground and understanding and really looking at what's happening in the shape that we're in, just economically, really thinking about that consideration. I recognize this body has no control over that because it is governed by City Council, but just wanting to flag that and just know that I am also flagging it as a part of a Catapult staff member with the council people as well.
thank you, Tanika. And just to refresh, currently the way the legislation reads, the only program where we're allowed to go up to 115% AMI is the down payment and closing cost assistance program. So that's, as the legislation exists today, that's what we're allowed to do and what we're sort of working within.
Before we walk away from the allocation plan, I just want to stress how important it is. Today we have 5 members. If I was seeing correctly,
Yes.
it is unacceptable to be planning for these dollars with 5 members. Lena joined us. Yay. Okay, we have 6. So we really want to make sure to be looking at our calendars now for those meetings. We want the best turnout we can get. If folks can't make it in person, being online, but I really don't think we're doing our due diligence if we say 5 members made these decisions. So hopefully everybody's had their calendars out already. You're already super excited about the allocation plan. You have it marked off. We want to get the best attendance humanly possible at all of these meetings. And welcome, Lena.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, we have our RFP project.
Brooke will be joining us for this one.
Good afternoon. My name is Brooke Gwynn. I am a housing lending analyst at the URA. My presentation this morning is the request for authorization to enter into a rental gap program loan agreement in an amount not to exceed $625,000 sourced from the Housing Opportunity Fund with Grandview South Homes or a related entity for the construction of 31 scattered site units located in the Allentown neighborhood. The borrower is a single-purpose entity created by Hilltop Alliance and Poole Anderson Properties. The affordability period will be 40 years. Hilltop Alliance is a nonprofit organization that has championed creating redevelopment efforts that preserve and create assets throughout the Hilltop communities. Poole Anderson Properties has extensive experience with complex capital stacks and has created over 1,000 LIHTC units. The project area is close to multiple transit stops in the neighborhood's business district, aiding efforts to promote walkable communities with transit access. 18 of the parcels in the project will be acquired from the URA. In total, 27 vacant lots and 6 abandoned structures will be put to their highest and best use, safe and affordable housing. The project was awarded 9% low-income housing tax credits from PHFA in 2021. In addition to the RGB loan, which in total will, with non-HOP sources, is $1.25 million, the project has additional financing from private and public sources. The total development cost is $17 million. The unit mix includes a mix of 2 and 3 bedroom homes. All will be rented affordably at or below either 20, 50, or 60% AMI. 4 of the units will be ADA accessible. Each home's heating and central air will utilize an electric heat pump, and all appliances will be ENERGY STAR rated when possible. Each home will also have a target score of 50 or less on the home energy rating system, meaning tenants and future home buyers will save money on utilities. Following the end of the initial 15-year LIHTC compliance period, the homes will be sold affordably to income-eligible residents. Construction is expected to be completed by September 2025. And I will now hand it off to Bill Shimko from Hilltop Alliance. If there are also any questions, please do so after some remarks.
Oh, you are muted. Bill.
Sorry about that. I've been having a lot of problems with Zoom today. I'm Bill Shimko. I'm the Executive Director of Hilltop Alliance. Happy to be here with you all today. Excited for this project. It is something that, as an organization, we've been working on for over 10 years. We started working with the Allentown CDC on community planning in 2013. We re-upped that plan in 2020. Both discussed the overwhelming need for affordable housing, new construction affordable housing in the Allentown neighborhood. And so, that 10, 11 years brings us here today. But I wanted to mention too, working with Allentown CDC, they were involved with us in terms of the architectural renderings that you've seen. They helped us choose what these homes would look like, how they would function. So there was a lot of community participation in that space. And also we continue to use Allentown CDC as a good, monthly meeting place where we can get together, answer questions, talk with people, find, potential tenants for these properties. And then, the last thing I wanted to mention is that this is, or not the last thing I want to mention on community participation is that this is for the neighborhood. This is obviously a big thing. This is basically 5 square blocks, 31 new homes. And for the neighbors, our response so far with them has been wonderful. They've been very understanding of the situation and the things that are going on the ground. And it's been a testament to our ongoing efforts, I believe, with the neighbors to get them up to speed on what this project means and what it can mean for their neighborhood. We've also worked with PHDC. Both of us have been offering home renovation and repair grants to people to help get their homes ready to have new homes next door to them, so to speak. And so there's been a lot of working around in the Allentown community that has brought us to this date. So it was mentioned earlier, there's some URA lots in this site assembly, but also worked with PHDC, worked with Mount Washington and CDC, and then we also purchased some of those lots through this process. So the 33 lots I mentioned, we started in 2013 with the planning, but in terms of trying to acquire these lots, they were all either city-owned lots or we used the city property reserve starting in 2016, and we are just closed on the last one through the city recently. So it was quite a long process, but one that ultimately delivered the properties we were looking at. And in general, as you see the map there, this is basically every buildable and either city-owned or available through the property reserve lot in this northern portion of Allentown between Grandview Park and East Warrington Avenue. So most of what else I was going to say about what the houses were like have already been discussed in that introduction. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Andy Haynes from Gatesburg Road, our development partner, is already also here on the call with me.
So given the content from the presentation, do we have questions, comments?
I don't have a question, just a comment. A project like this is really exciting to see. When I first moved to Pittsburgh and was a grad student, I did some research on neighborhood change throughout the city, and Allentown was really one of the neighborhoods that we focused on. So just kind of knowing a lot of data from that study, it's really great to see this type of investment, especially at the affordability levels that are being presented. And the fact that there's a lot of infill development that's going to be happening here to really help try to rebuild the fabric of a neighborhood. I just really, to me, this feels like a good omen for what can happen in the neighborhood. And I know this has been a long time coming. And then I'm just really impressed on the energy efficiency features that you guys are going to be having in these buildings. My ears perked up a bit when Brooke mentioned the sorry, what is your okay, great. Brooke mentioned the heat pumps. So again, just really excited about this and glad to know that this type of work is going on in the city.
Well, given those comments, do you have an appetite to make a motion related to the project?
Yes, motion to approve.
We have to go back to the slide.
Okay. Okay, so I move to recommend that the URA enter into a rental grant program loan agreement in an amount not to exceed $625,000 sourced from the Housing Opportunity Fund with Grandview South Homes LP or related entity for the construction of 31 scattered site units located in the Allentown neighborhood, Ward 18, City of Pittsburgh.
With that motion, do we have a second or request for ongoing conversation?
I will second. This is Ellie Fisher.
Ellie Fisher has seconded the motion. Is there anyone on the call that is abstaining from the vote?
I am, Adrian.
Thank you, Lena. I suspected you might be.
I always do.
So we have one abstention. All those in favor of this project, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? And one abstention. With that, the motion carries. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're excited to support the project.
Thank you again for having us. We're looking forward to building it.
You have to invite us when you get started.
All right.
The HOF never gets an invite. So we would love to have an invite. We'll work on it.
Good luck on the
Make a
project.
note. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Andy. So we're going to keep moving through the agenda.
Hi, it's Kiana Wassler, Chief Housing Officer. I'll take on the there's two HAP updates that we have for the advisory board today. The first is we want to daylight that we have we are committing $200,000 of the HAP 2024 funds towards a choice neighborhood initiative that's happening in the Bedford Dwellings Choice Project. So just a little bit of background. Last year it was announced that Bedford Dwellings, the Housing Authority with Trek Development as their partner, received a large HUD award called Choice Neighborhoods Award. And as part of that, it's for the Bedford Dwellings housing, public housing in the Hill District, Bedford Dwellings neighborhood. Part of the Choice Award is they also fund different neighborhood initiatives that are within the Choice boundary. So one of the neighborhood initiatives will be a targeted facade repair program that will also allow work to be done to the interior of homes that are within this boundary. And so you can see here that we have allocated $200,000 of the HAP 2024 funds towards this. The total allocation towards this effort is $2.045 million. We believe this will serve approximately 40 households. And the Pittsburgh Housing Development Corporation, or PHDC, which is the URA's affiliate, will run this program with the URA's support. So it's a HAP similar project or program, and so we thought this the HAP funds would be the best place to take this from for this initiative. So just wanted to kind of daylight that for the advisory board so that you all know we're committing $200,000 in the Hill District for this. Any questions on that or comments?
I saw some hand clapping, which is always good.
Tanika and Harry, that was, of course, I'm hand clapping. Thank you for the creative solution making, because this has to happen. So thank you for figuring this out. I know it wasn't easy, but thank you, URC.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion on that item, we can talk about the HAP pilot.
Sure.
And Kiana will take that as well.
Yep. All right, so my slide didn't update, unfortunately. Okay, so just I want to talk about the HAP program in general. We have to kind of talk about, I want to first talk about how we got to wanting to do a HAP pilot with Action Housing before going into the details of what that looks like. And I'm sorry to the public and the advisory board that those details aren't there. Okay, so the HAP Homeowner Assistance Program, or HAP. Okay, here we go.
Oh, sorry.
I'll keep talking, but I have a lot of talking points. So the Homeowner Assistance Program was designed by the advisory board for the safety and well-being of our low-income homeowners across the city of Pittsburgh who are deferring maintenance because they don't have the financial means to keep their homes, fix up their homes, and do maintenance issues that they have. So since launching in 2019, the HAP program has been able to assist approximately 376 homeowners with home improvements. These are critical to health, safety, accessibility, and critical to the financial stability of the families. Our team in working through attempting to open a round for 2024, we open this once a year. It's a very popular program. We always get more applications than we can fund. And so it's a pretty big ordeal for us to open the round. And as we were preparing to do that this year, we discovered that there are some clear programmatic improvements that we need to establish to better serve our clients and ensure this program can operate efficiently. And so most of these improvements are already underway. And so some of those improvements that we've found that we needed to take on, or some of our issues, are mostly pertaining to the program budget. We have discovered a multi-year budget issue within the operation of this program. The main issue we've identified is that since the launch in 2019, the budget, we were not accounting for various fees and contingencies that naturally occur as a part of this type of program's operation. This includes administrative fees, appraisal fees, construction contingencies for increased scope of work or cost overruns. And because these were not accounted for in the program budget year after year, we've accepted more applications annually than what was financially sustainable. We're taking on full responsibility for having not caught this earlier, and also overspending these funds. At the same time, though, we do want to note that we've been able to serve more residents as a result of this. So for that reason, we don't view this overage necessarily as, it's not a waste of funding. We've been servicing people with needs, and we are proud of that, when it is the spirit of why the HOF was created and the HAP program. And so, in addition to the budget issues, we also have a backlog of clients that we are serving, and that includes approximately 115 outstanding projects to be completed and closed out. Our next steps to rectify having overspent our budget and having this backlog of clients is the following. Identifying existing funding sources that can be tapped into over the next several years to get the program back to a place where it's functioning with financial stability. Making budget improvements to ensure we're including all necessary budgetary items in the overall budget, properly inputting project costs, and that staff is monitoring the programmatic spending monthly. We are doing a better job of clearly communicating deadlines with our homeowners and our contractors. That's part of the reason why we have some backlog. And then we've also worked to implement process improvements to ensure that all steps of the process are being tracked and statuses are being updated in real time. And so I just want to let the advisory board, I want you all to understand the URA will fundraise to cover all of the overages that we have. And I want to be clear that we will not use future HOF allocations to cover these. We're working to ensure these issues do not happen again for this program or any of the similar programs that we administer. And so our plan for 2024 is, so just to kind of talk about where we are in 2024. The 2024 HAP allocation amount is $3,050,000. We are currently engaging with Action Housing to enter into a pilot contract of $1.5 million to administer and oversee the 2024 HAP process from opening to completion. This includes launching the application round, selecting and improving final applicants, matching those applicants to contractors, and managing the construction process through completion. With the $1.5 million in funding, Action Housing anticipates they can complete approximately 35 projects. The benefits of Action administering the program this year would include using their streamlined portal, which was used for Allegheny County's whole home repair program. So they have a really great application portal that they have kind of modeled for us. We understand how it works, and it's a streamlined process that would be great for us to use. Utilizing their services this year would avoid disruption in service to clients for 2024. We will be able to open around. This will help manage the URA capacity constraints. We want to focus on clearing out our backlog of 115 clients and making sure we're providing the best customer service to them. This will also, for the future, provide a potential to streamline homeowner repair coordination with Allegheny County to kind of coordinate with HAP whole home repairs. There's solar for all, there's weatherization, there's other home repair programs available to affordable homeowners, that we could potentially use this as a pilot to streamline a process that someone could apply once to all the different things that are available to them. And so our goal, Action Housing, to do this work with us, they're charging an admin fee of 10% or $150,000 to administer the contract. Our goal with timing is we're bringing it before the advisory board today. We will, if approved, we'll take it before the URA board. And then we'll start a process. I believe it'll take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to get the application teed up and ready at Action Housing, to be able to open it up to allow applicants to apply. So that's my presentation. Dan Sullivan, Action Housing's Manager of Housing Stabilization Programs, is here with us today to provide additional information and to also help answer any questions you may have. Welcome, Dan. Is there anything you'd like to add to what I've just said?
No, I think you covered everything pretty well. This is an exciting opportunity, especially, and you mentioned solar for all, rewiring America, things of that nature. So sort of harken on the environmental impacts that we're really talking about. This is really important for these residents of the city of Pittsburgh to really make a difference in scale in terms of the environmental impact and decarbonization of these homes, these neighborhoods. A program like this is vital. You're going to have to be able to go in and take a look at, foundation issues, structural issues with the roof, electrical panel upgrades, and those are not covered in your traditional weatherization type programs. Something like this can really make an impact where then you can take those homes. They will not be deferred under WAP. They will not be deferred under any sort of solar for all program or anything like that. So there is a nice smooth transition, we believe, to get the envelope sealed, environmental risks taken care of, and then get these homeowners into things like heat pump exchanges and solar panels with assistance with rebate systems and stuff like that. So, we're very excited about just the idea of this and the impact it can make in the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to make sure the public and the board understands is that we have been running the HAP program with a prioritization to make sure we are assisting those that are the most vulnerable, have the most need. We don't want to replace a fully functioning kitchen when there are people out there that don't have functioning bathrooms and things like that. So Action will be able to continue that prioritization with the application for us. So we're happy that we wouldn't have to disrupt that.
I'm smiling because I was just about to ask that question. Every time I was about to ask the question, Kiana had an answer for it. So thank you for that. Wanting to understand what the priority is, and we want to make sure that's public. As an advisory board member, I want to do my part to make sure we let this be known, because we recognize that this is great. I'm all for it. However, 35 to 40 projects is a small bite compared to all of the requests that come through to the URA. So there's still going to be some disgruntled individuals. So we need to make sure our messaging is very clear and that the process is clearer than clear, because there will be a lot more declinations than there will be approvals. And so wanting to make sure that you lean on Action House. And Dan, I know we haven't met personally, but we've emailed. So just knowing that you have the support of some of our organizations here to be able to help you through that process. And specifically with Catapult, we work from a trauma-informed base of working with clients. And so if there's anything we can do to provide support in messaging, even helping with prioritizing, please let us know. Please lean on your partners, because we are in the weeds with you. And when you send a declination, they'll come to Catapult, right? So we're in this together. We want to ensure that this happens. But to be honest, 35 to 40 projects is not a lot, but it is great. And this is a wonderful thing. And Chief Wass, I want you to know that I don't really think there's a need for you to even apologize for anything that's happened, because lives were transformed and people were served. And so sometimes we have to be creative about how we get these things done. And so I just want to keep pushing the envelope on finding out creative ways. There were systems created to ensure that individuals continue to be marginalized, and some of those systems we're still dealing with. And so whatever we can do to disrupt those systems, please know that you have support from this team. So thank you for acknowledging this, but I want to make sure that you hear clearly from Tamika, if not everybody else, that there's no need to apologize. The work was done. People received the services that they needed and that they deserved. So thank you and the team for doing that.
And just to comment on the small amount of projects, as you can see, we are not, we are truly considering this a pilot, so we have not allocated the full $3.53 million to action, but there is an opportunity, if we all feel like this is running smoothly, to come back to the advisory board with an update on how everything's going and to extend to use the full allocation potentially, because the applications will already kind of be prioritized all the way through, and so we could potentially maybe move down the line here. So yeah, and serve more people. So.
Do we have questions, comments?
I have a few other questions. This is Ellie Fisher. So the sort of the preamble that you gave was all for allocations 2023 and before, right? Correct. Okay. So what's the plan for the rest of the other half of our pot for this year? Like, are we opening that up for?
I think we'll just hold it and then
You already have applicants.
we don't have applicants yet. We have,
But
well,
you have the folks that didn't.
we have past applicants that were approved that are in our pipeline and part of that 115 projects in our backlog.
But there's also that group of people that applied and you couldn't serve because the funds weren't there.
That's correct. So typically we don't go back to an old application that folks we don't serve. We always open it back up
fresh.
Fresh that year, because a lot of times if people can't get served through us, they may have been served through whole home repairs or something like that and may not have the need. So we're just kind of refreshing annually those applications to make sure we understand that there's still the priorities and the need. But I think what we could do is allow action to, if they can only serve 35 to 40 people and we had 100 applicants, they could maybe then move down the prioritization list if the advisory board agrees with continuing to allow them to use the full allocation.
But you're trying to hold funds so that you can benchmark.
Yes.
And then move forward with the best strategy.
That's correct. We want to,
So instead of just handing all the money out, seeing how everything goes first, evaluating that, which was something that I was going to ask because, we had a very similar conversation related to this with housing stabilization program and how it was going to be awarded. And if it wasn't going to be, a public application process, that we needed to have information that demonstrated we had found a partner that could successfully utilize the funds before handing all of those dollars over.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is like we're over halfway through the year now, and I want to make sure we have a plan that we don't just hold these dollars for spending next year. Like we allocated them for this year.
right.
Like, let's make sure we get the other, I love the action idea. I think it's fantastic, fully supported. But that other 1.5, like, it'd be great to get those dollars. We know there's need, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know that I have an opinion about whether that goes through the URA process or the action process. I don't want to see it sit in the bank.
Right. Okay.
I'm with you, Ellie, too, but also recognize that if we don't have a way to evaluate what's working, we could go back into a really bad situation, right? So I understand. I understand why we need to do why we will go with 1.5 first, evaluate the effectiveness, but because there's such a great need, I don't think it'll be a hard sell to get the rest of that money out in the street. I really think it'll be easy. So if we're able to then evaluate so this is all happening at the same time, get it while the money is going out into the street, and then being able to make some tweaks, because we'll probably need to make some tweaks and some adjustments and then get the rest of the money out there. I think it's smart. I think it's really smart to do it that way.
So am I hearing from the URA then that you're gonna like clear off these 115 outstanding projects and then either completely reevaluate the program or not administer it through the URA?
We didn't say that, but potentially, I think once we clear out our backlog, understand how a partnership could work. There's also a whole home ownership network that's been meeting and attempting to model other cities' hub type products where maybe we would still run the background of it, but the application is all through one source that then gets farmed out to all the different providers who would run that program. So we're looking into the best way to serve the public with this program and combine it with other resources as well. So we'll come back to you with more information around what that looks like.
And how long do you think it'll take you to work through with these 115?
That's a good question. Derek, you have a year?
I would say, yeah, realistically, to clear out all 115, probably a year.
And how long do you think it's gonna take you to go through the?
Ellie, when you're speaking,
Oh.
nobody can hear you.
Oh,
If
thank you.
you're turning to the
Oh,
side.
be this way, okay.
Well, it's just you need to be able to speak up. So when you turn to the side, I can't even hear you. So
Thank you. So it's up there, okay.
wanna talk?
Is there an estimated time frame for action to spend out the 1.5 million?
is it the 8 months?
It's, yeah.
Oh, hey, it says it right there. Thank you.
That would, so that timetable would be somewhere between 4 to 5 jobs a month if proof of concept is shown early on. In terms of capacity, Action Housing has 10 contractors who are still working under whole homes. 9 of them are WMBEs at varying sizes. I have 3-man crews to 25-man crews. So there is capacity to build upon that. We want to be very, I think, real detailed and real selective about this getting out of the gate to prove that concept out. You know, because home construction in this realm is very bespoke. So it's not like a new construction where we could just like plop down an architectural drawing. And that does cause some delays. That's why there's contingency plans and things of that nature. So we don't want to promise too much right out of the gate, but the capacity that was built under whole homes that we've been running for over a year now, it's there. I mean, at our highest capacity at whole homes, we were going through 3 million a year or a month. Yeah, so I'm not making any promises like that. But it means that the infrastructure is there to increase this as we develop an idea of like what our best practices. I think messaging is absolutely key to Nick. I'm so glad you brought that up. That was a thing. I think we could have done a better job in whole homes. We learned a lot of lessons with that. But I do think that you can get through that pretty quickly. I will say, just in my personal experience for doing this work, you will never get through the backlog. Because as soon as you open up application again, you're gonna have 200 more people get in. So, you know, we really have to, you know, kind of figure out how we're gonna move forward with the application process. So it's never a job you get ahead of.
I'm with open planning and we're sitting on 6 that are interested, right? I'm just saying, well, wait, you know?
But I think this is also, I'm just going to go back to the transparency question, because since the inception of this board, there have been debates about sole source and transparent process and competitive RFPs. So again, if you want to, you know, show proof of concept, I think it's important that you say pilot, because otherwise we get back into that loop of, oh, we just unilaterally picked sole source. That wasn't the intention. The community wasn't involved. And we also want to have that level of transparency. So being able to pilot a concept allows us to prove that concept, and then allows us to have that deeper conversation, which is a much more positive strategy than having people have a gut reaction to something that feels like it isn't an open conversation. Which is why in last month's meeting, when we were in retreat mode, we stopped the conversation about this pilot because we want to make sure we have sunshine on the discussion, on the why, you know, a pilot partner was chosen, we want all of that to be above board, and we don't want to put ourselves in a situation where anybody has to come to the backlash. So I just want to, round that out. There are, many reasons to do something like a pilot, and there are reasons to keep dollars back. So that we can benchmark, we can have that go nicely and smoothly. We can also talk about how fast and furious these happen. We can also talk about any other parts of the process that break down. So that when we get to that final thinking, we're able to really have the best option. So thank you for coming and sharing that. Do we have other questions?
This is Ellie Fisher. Is it publicized what the prioritization is? Is that gonna be exactly, is actions prioritization gonna be the same as URA's?
I believe we use a similar prioritization to whole home repair last year. So
Yes.
we will work with them to make sure we will determine what the 2024 prioritization will be, and we'll come back and tell you what that is. But do you recall what the prioritization was on the
For scope of work,
for the applicants, like what prioritized them over others? I think it was,
it was very detailed with the weight system.
yeah,
Uh,
it's
we-
like
we-
people with children, but
Under five.
Elevated blood lead levels in children under 5,
Yeah.
asthma, children who have diagnosis of asthma. We were looking for a lot of accessible modifications to do age in place. We were looking at
It was-
homeowners 65% AMI or lower.
What was critical systems? as well.
yes,
Yeah.
who has the
Yeah,
most,
critical
yeah.
symptoms, yeah.
So we can get back to you with exactly what that'll be.
And it's all available. I mean, if it's basically the same, which it does seem to be parallel, it's on our website. We have a FAQ and a guidebook that's open to the public. Anyone can take a look at it and see how we selected jobs over whole homes.
And then I just want to add to, in case anyone is, when we talk about messaging, where there's been a lot of conversation between our action and URAs, that we want to make sure people understand this is the HAP program that we're running. It might look like whole home repair, but we will model it to be the homeowner assistance program through the HOF fund, right? And so what that looks like in the future as we determine future program, we'll figure that out. But this round would be homeowner assistance program for the city of Pittsburgh only. And all the typical requirements that we would have. Unfortunately, well, a good thing, well, it's unfortunate for action, maybe okay for us, is that there was a concern of like, if whole home repairs opens at the same time and action is running both, how can we like tease out who really should get which funding source? But the state did not fund whole home repair this year, so we won't have to worry about that issue, unfortunately.
But we do have systems in place that if there is another version of whole homes, or as Rewiring America comes through, that you can log into these application databases, and we can build in metrics to say, well, this applicant is best served under the URA program, or best, and then we can transition to WAP or whatever it is. So, there are drop downs, and the algorithms can weed all that out for us, so we can hopefully align people with the program that they most need, that they would qualify for.
And something that came up after last meeting, was the question of why did the URA wait till so late in the process where it already felt like it was a done deal to bring it to the table? So we had talked about that when we had our agenda meeting. But that is something that if we are going down one of these paths and HOF dollars are going to be used, it appears that the advisory would like to know that earlier in the conversation as opposed to later. Because it does feel a little fast and furious, which sometimes things are. But members did also ask that question. Well, that kind of felt like it was already done and we haven't heard about it until now.
Yeah.
And again, for that transparency and to get people really pulling in the same direction, the earlier we can do that, I think the better outcomes we'll have on everybody's side. So just food for thought.
Yeah, I completely, and I think knowing, we're about to have our 2025 dollars, right?
Yeah.
If we're gonna do this again, we should start planning for it now. Yeah, my other question I have is, what's your plan for like, we know there's so much demand, right? Like, this is gonna get slammed. Everybody's been waiting. Like, what's your plan for bringing in, announcing, bringing in applications?
Like the timeline.
No, like, how are you gonna like find people?
Oh, we will,
That's not an issue. We have.
we-
I know it's.
We didn't market whole homes and we got 4,300 applications in 30 days, but
Right.
and I, you know,
We have a whole request list on our side too,
Yeah.
people that have expressed interest in the program, but because it's not open yet. we
That's what
can't
I was trying to
the
figure out.
applications. So
Keeping-
we have a list
Yeah, we
of
do have
hundreds
that
of
list,
people
yeah.
that have expressed interest in this year's round, so. I'm sure we have more people than we have capacity for.
So you're gonna send it out to that list?
we'll send it out to that list.
And it also gets publicized.
Yeah, we do a large marketing effort around when the application's opening. The application will be fully virtual this year, which is something what would have happened whether it was, us running it or anyone else. And so we'll work with Action to figure out a way to help people who can't do a virtual application come into the URA offices and we can support, them bringing their documents to us and we can help them with the virtual application. So it's going to be truly a partnership. The marketing effort onus will be mostly on the URA. And then kind of running it will be, supported will be Action Housing supported by us, so
Ellie,
yeah.
thank you for that question. I was gonna ask that as well. But so also as HOF advisory board members, so once the URA creates the marketing material, if you give that to us, it is our responsibility to make sure that our networks receive it as well. So
Absolutely.
every single advisory board member, we should all be posting that information. So Erica's great with this, but as soon as it's completed, make sure that we have it so we can disseminate it within our networks and we can utilize our chain of how we get information out for our organizations as well.
I mean, it's gonna be flooded, right? I think that's the planning that I'm asking for more, is like, how are you gonna deal with the flood of applicants?
We're flooded,
Right,
it's
you know,
flooded
You're
annually.
already-
Yeah,
This is like the bathtub, right? Like, it's gonna flood.
And there's a scoring system, right? So there is a way, so that's why the prioritization. So once that's all outlined, the prioritization is included, and then there is a vetting system that goes on internally. So I'm just glad I don't have to deal with that. That's what the housing team, sorry, but not sorry. It's what the housing team is gonna be dealing with. But yeah, I'm just so grateful that you all figured out a way to make this work. Because even with the 35 to 40 people, this is going to be life-changing for some.
Yeah, great conversation so far. If we have one additional question or comment.
I'll just
Do we
quickly,
need to vote?
I'll just quickly comment on we get hundreds of applications annually. We can only accept a limited amount of applications. I think last year we maybe got 300 or 400.
We got
We got
yeah,
close to 600.
600.
600, we only accepted 80. So we expect that type of thing to continue to happen annually, unfortunately, until we can get more money into HAP, into whole homes, into all these other programs to help kind of provide all of this subsidy for the need that's out there. So we are prepared for that. We know it's coming. And that's why it's important for everyone to make sure that their people that have a need know the application's open and that they can be in a prioritization, hopefully. And then I guess lastly, I did not include a authorization here, but I do think we need a vote. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
So if we have a motion to move forward, I think we can read it straight from the slide. A motion to approve a pilot with Action Housing in the amount of 1.5 million to administer and oversee our 2024 HAP process from opening to completion. I think that's pretty much the motion, which I can't make. So
I can do that. So we motion to go into authorization for the Action Housing to manage the pilot URA HAP pilot program of $1.5 million to oversee the 2024 housing assistance program process, which is HAP, and also providing a 10% admin fee to Action Housing in the amount of $150,000 to administer the contract.
Does the 1.5 include the 150 or are they separate?
It does.
So just a slight amendment that includes an administrative fee of 10% or 150,000. Sorry, I missed that part. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you so much, Deirdre. Lena, you need to abstain from this vote. Are there any others abstaining?
I definitely need to abstain. But thanks, everyone. We're excited about the opportunity.
So if we have no other abstentions, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. I don't believe there was any opposition. I think I heard all ayes. Thank you to Action for being available and taking something like this on. I'd just like to make the comment when we're going into action plan. It's not action plan, it's Action Housing conversation plus the allocation plan. This is the kind of conversation that we hope we can start to have of projects that have the highest level of impact. And as a fund, do we want to focus in a more pointed way than we have in the past to provide more resources to programs that we know really, the applications outstrip what we have available, and not only outstrip, but at a level that's pretty terrifying. So just keep these conversations in mind as we start to get into allocation plan mode. In Action, please never come again on a day that I have to say allocation over and over again. It's very confusing. But this is the kind of thing that I do think we want to start talking about as this advisory, is those targeted, enhanced approaches to certain issues that we know are really crippling our neighborhoods.
I think, Adrienne, can I just add one quick thing?
Mm-hmm.
I think also, we talk a lot about advocacy, but these are also the types of programs when whole home repairs at the state, like when these other funding opportunities appear like outside of HOF, it's a good opportunity for us as individuals and maybe as HOF too to advocate for more funding, because we really see the demand here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lena. That's a great reminder from meeting before last. Okay, well, we're moving along. We have a few more items on the agenda. The next item is actually talking about the committee structure. I wanted to put this on the agenda for today. We have 3 committees, 2 of which have lost their chairs and 1 of which is not meeting. So what I would actually like to do, and I would like to propose and have some dialogue on it for the group, is I would like to take the allocation planning process and flow our committee structure out of that process. Because we have things that have been raised like advocacy, enhancing the funding that's available in the trust fund. I think that if we are moving in any direction where we're more pointed in what we're doing, or we want to see different benchmarking, we've talked about outcomes measures. I think that committee conversation would flow really beautifully out of what we talk about for allocation planning. Because when we do allocation planning, we have a lot of these deeper conversations and don't even realize it. So personally, for me, I think our best strategy right now, and I would love to hear others' thoughts, is to put a pin in our current committees and make the commitment that through the allocation planning process, we are going to generate that thinking about the new iteration of committees. So I would love to hear if that resonates with folks or you have concerns about that. If there are concerns, then we have to get a lot of new chairs really quickly.
I agree, but just for the sake of the meeting, could Eric, can you outline what the three allocation areas are?
I can do that. So we have DEI and Fair Housing, which was chaired by Dr. Spradley. Mm-hmm. We have the committee that's been looking at outreach, and that DEI and Fair Housing was Derek Tillman, who resigned. We have the outreach committee that was all about, public engagement, getting the word out about HOF programs and membership and how we impact communities. That was under Dr. Paul Spradley, and he has now left. Lena was chairing the innovation committee, which I think maybe everybody's understanding of what we were talking about when we said innovation might have been different.
Yeah,
So
I was co-chairing that with Tammy Thompson.
and Tammy is changing as well.
Yeah.
So it is just sort of a perfect storm. We also want to talk about the moment the board representation. So I think even as we get new representatives on the board, we may see new energy and enthusiasm for committee work. And I do feel that from the retreat, when we organize these committees, maybe we didn't understand what we were talking about. Because if you sat in a committee meeting, everybody had sort of a slightly different impression of what that committee was going to do. At least in the two committees that I regularly went to, and Lena, when you and I talked, it felt like it was the same for you. So I think if we're going to have committees, we want to be really granular about what those committees are going to do. So when people sign up, it really is something that resonates and it's something that they can participate in actively as opposed to a more passive approach. I see some head nodding. So if there's not a, gut reaction of, oh my gosh, if we take those committees offline right now, something's going to go terribly wrong. I would like to put a pin in that and really have it try to circle back to that as we're doing the allocation planning and put that on our radar. These are themes. We know the fundraising and advocacy is a theme. We want more public engagement. We know that's a theme. We want to talk about best practice, but best practice for what? I mean, best practice could be just about anything. So hopefully we can just start to get a finer point on it every time that we're having these conversations.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Wonderful. Well, that is one thing that we'll take off the agenda for a minute. The second tie to that is this candidate recommendations. We did get a very small number of recommendations, but Eric, could you take us back to the vacancy slide?
Sure can be.
So we can take a look at this because it's very concerning. The vacancy slide doesn't feel awesome. So if you look, there's a lot of vacants. So mayor's office, resident south, resident west, for-profit development, tenant representative. Those are key voices. I know Derek had some thoughts on potential folks for-profit development. We did not get those specific names from Derek before, unfortunately, he was asked to leave the retreat. So this is really important. We talked last time about using the housing authorities outreach right now related to a tenant representative. We are trying to talk to the mayor's office, but if we want to have impact, but we don't raise any names, we're not going to get anywhere. So if we could take a moment, maybe right now, to take a look at a lot of vacancies. 5 vacancies is troubling. We also have some folks that are not coming. My apologies, I missed the lending institution. So we have 5 vacant. Our tenant representative hasn't been coming. That's 6.
And then Kelly.
And Kelly resigned. So that puts us at basically half. The name that was raised for Fair Housing representative was Megan from the Fair Housing Partnership. As we all know, she's been committed to joining us, whether she was a member of the advisory or not. We've had a couple of lending institution names raised. Lena, I know you had provided some thoughts. So if we could take a minute and look at our 7, we'll say it's lucky 7. We're going to get some great names today and then pass those on to the mayor. We could take a look at those right now. Do people have thoughts?
Yeah, for the mayor's office, I about Darius Wallace.
Oh, okay. And I
And-
had asked for Kyle back. So just so folks know, the name that I surfaced for that was I'd like to have Kyle back. He was on the board when it formed, so I'd like to have Kyle back.
You mean, you're talking about Cal Tutalopoli?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh,
He was great.
Would that be a conflict since he's the chair of the URA board as well? I mean, and I don't know. That's why I'm just asking.
Yeah, I don't know either, honestly.
Okay.
But Darius is a great recommendation as well. Do others have thoughts about the mayor's office? Folks that you've worked with? Well, hearing none, I'm going to move down the list. Thoughts about neighborhood-based nonprofit or a community resident in the South? And we did not get a perfect answer from the mayor's office of what constitutes South. So let's cast the net wide. Any thinking? I mean, personally, for me, Mohawk from Brashear, I think would be great.
Jennifer Cash Wade, the Super Consensus Group.
Oh, she's great. Yeah.
Be the Hilltop Alliance. I don't know who's running it now, but
Bill.
I think Jennifer is a great choice too, Tanika.
Yeah, I think Mohawk is in both because he does consulting.
So Bill Shimko.
Joe Shipko.
Right.
Yeah, we just talked to Bill.
Yeah.
Stars are aligning, but we think Hilltop Alliance would be a great presence.
Did you get the Bell Super Consensus Group? I don't know if you heard
I
that.
did, yes.
Okay.
Jennifer Cash Wade.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So Marcus Reed, we have asked the mayor's office, because we have not had Marcus participating, if they can, have a conversation with him. He has not responded to our HOF requests. But our anticipation is that Marcus will not be our tenant representative going forward. Again, we did talk about the housing authorities process. They're identifying some leaders from their communities. Is there someone else that resonates, for this tenant representative?
Can you define tenant? Tenant.
Again, the mayor's office hasn't defined that. I think that folks who are in some type of housing that's supported by public dollars was the way I always conceptualized it, but that might not be the way the mayor's office conceptualizes it. So if there's just somebody who is a great community organizer and works with tenants, I think we can throw the net wide to make a recommendation that we feel is reflective. I think we've struggled with this one. Aside from folks that showed up regularly from Pittsburgh United who were not on the board, the tenant representative has never come, no matter who it's been. So we want to be really mindful there of not only a person that we think brings the strengths to the table of a more tenant-focused voice, but also that we put everything in place to make sure that that person can join us, whether that's technology or transportation. Because we have not had anyone in that seat that has ever come. And that is kind of a sick manifestation of a board.
Is there anyone at Pittsburgh United? Yeah.
So Pittsburgh United at their last meeting brought this to the table as well. I am on camera publicly right now. I know Pittsburgh United is kind of struggling, as is the Justice Table. So I'm not going to really say that there is a person. I think many people are playing different roles. So I haven't seen someone emerge that felt that that really felt like, wow, that would make complete sense because folks are sort of doing some organizing and they're working at other organizations and, I'm really not sure what the capacity is. So, not to say there isn't someone, but it hasn't been clear to me. But maybe this one also has a little bit of a pin in it until we can talk a little bit more. Unfortunately, our housing authority rep isn't here today. She might have a little bit more information for us. I think they actually had a slate of folks they were looking at. And maybe if we knew who those were, maybe something would click. So maybe we just put a pin in that one for the moment. We have a lending institution. So Dollar Bank holds the seat for the mayor's office. We were talking about doing some follow-up with Kyle to see, if Dollar Bank wants to reappoint a representative. But in the meantime, if there is someone that's screaming out in your mind as a great lending institution representative, I'd love to capture that.
First Commonwealth.
Is there a specific person that sticks out to you?
Joe, and I always mess up his last name, so T.
Okay.
T as in Tom.
Thomas, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, obviously that resonates with someone else because that name came off of people's tongues really quickly. Other thoughts on a lending institution partner? I had put forward Laura Swiss from PNC. She has worked with communities for a long time. She's always very responsive, respectful. I think she brings a lot to the table, but she's sort of a usual suspect.
Yeah.
So if we could get a little bit more, diversity and breadth, that would be great too.
There might be someone at Bridgeway Capital. I don't know their whole team, but they've been investing more in affordable housing.
Anybody that is popping to mind, Lena, or just their overall team?
Let me think about it. I have to think about it.
So we have the fair housing representative.
So Megan said they're interested.
Well, Megan's always been interested. She has participated. She's presented to us. She's been on committees consistently. She is a person living with a disabling condition. So we have, I put her forward because I thought that was sort of a obvious choice. But I could certainly be missing someone in this space.
I just want to be clear. You're talking about Megan Hammond?
Yes.
Perfect. Yes, I agree. I agree.
And we have vacant for West. I have to say that West has also been a challenge since the inception of the board. We've never had a consistent representative from West.
So I've talked to a handful of folks for either South or West.
Great.
Who are affiliated with Allegheny County DHS and do data analysis. Unfortunately, they have declined to want to move forward just because of other time commitments. But I'm still kind of trying to noodle around in that area, just given the resources that folks over at DHS have and the work that they do in general. I think, having someone who can look at this from a county-wide scope and also have different tools available, I think that could be really useful. So I'm going to continue to poke around and see if there's anyone that I can identify that kind of fits those criteria, broadly speaking. But the first person that I really reached out to, who was sort of my top, just with the projects that they're working on, unfortunately couldn't make the commitment.
And speaking of DHS, we've had a couple conversations about should there be a DHS seat. Now there is you always like to have an odd number in case there's a tiebreaker. Some boards actually allow the chair to break the tie. Which would, you know, if we wanted to do another creative option, we could certainly have that conversation about changing bylaws. But I agree with you. I think that DHS's absence is felt. They used to actually come to every meeting. I asked Erin Dalton a few months ago, actually in March, if she would start sending someone again. Because that voice was important. Chuck Keenan was the person that regularly came. And he did weigh in on things, which was helpful. I think that the DHS absence is problematic. Personally, I think that we're really missing an opportunity there. And we can continue to talk to Kyle a little bit about, you know, is there any wiggle room in seats? So far we haven't been told yes, absolutely, because it came out of the, you know, legislation in that process, but there may be an opportunity. So yes, if we could get a DHS person that was a resident, that would be fantastic. But I also think it is a separate and distinct voice. The other piece that's glaringly absent to me is behavioral health. Public safety and how that ties. So for me, that has been one that I've also wondered if we could. There's been so much that's happened over the years related to tying behavioral health and public safety. I think that could be a really strong voice too. That would actually take us to 17, which is an odd number. So, you know, I don't want us to feel constrained. We might not be able to make a change, but if we feel like a change is needed, we always want to bring it forward. Well, this piece was super helpful for me. Today is not the last day to say if there's somebody that you're thinking about. We're going to continue to talk to Kyle and try to massage that conversation. So please bring it forward. It's never too late for a good idea.
So in terms of the process, are we just giving these names to Kyle and then he's setting them?
So yeah, so we're trying to just talk to him overall about this whole process. He's open to the dialogue about who we think is, you know, powerful, impactful, and meaningful.
Yeah.
But there are some what I think cloudy spaces on what this even looks like, not only from us, but the mayor's office as well. And, you know, things like South. What does South mean? What does West mean? You know, can we expand the board? Can the mayor's office tell us when because they have the open call right now for these committees, but we don't know who they're talking to. We had new members show up that we didn't know were coming. I didn't know you were coming. So we're just trying to massage all of it. Can we just open it up? What could the relationship look like?
Sure.
And it's really helpful for us if we have names in mind that we can say, well, our group talked about so-and-so, and we think this would be a really great addition. Do you have someone? If you don't, if you haven't offered something to somebody yet, do we have the opportunity to kind of swoop in and inform that? Because the hope would be going forward, it becomes a fully transparent, collaborative process. But it isn't now because there was already a call out for people when they started appointing folks. So we're just trying to get our feet under us and get a deeper understanding.
I'm just thinking as we're talking to people, like, do we tell them?
Say,
go apply?
people can apply.
I mean, I guess
It's
that's
still
probably the
open.
most direct thing to do is
Can apply.
make an application, yeah.
I just applied for something. I don't know what their process is even to vet those candidates. So as you said, like I applied and then I didn't hear anything and then suddenly I got a letter.
Yeah.
So we want to try to make it a little less. How does this work?
I think that's great that they have an open application though.
Oh,
If
absolutely.
you find somebody we don't even know, that'd be great.
And somebody with interest and commitment. You know, we're certainly not trying to limit who is
For
a
sure.
possibility. We're trying to expand who is a possibility. So thanks, everyone. More to come, much more to come.
Great. Moving on to one of our final sections, we have the programmatic expenditures and updates. So this may look very familiar to you. We are updating the style of this part of the presentation that we will be doing every month after this one. We're still getting it ready, but we'll be, as me and Derek both referenced earlier, we'll be able to present a lot more information. We'll be able to talk to you about, total expenditure, total committed, total. So just, a great idea of like how much money we have spent and how much we have left in each program, which isn't fully brought across by this here. We'll also be able to tell you more about the location of the projects we're doing, broken down by council district, neighborhood, things like that. There'll be even more stuff too. I have to, see the finished product before I start promising you the moon. But it should be a great improvement over this. And while it will be a good amount of work that, we were unfortunately not able to get ready for this month, once it is ready for next month, it'll be easy to update every month after that. Even to the point where if you are looking for some extra data between meetings, you can reach out to me. And unlike this, that I'll have to draw, I have to make these every time manually. The other one will be a static dashboard that will update as we go. So there'll be information that is just simply available to you. So that's something to keep in mind. That's exciting and hopefully will help a lot for the allocation process. Hopefully this will make things a little bit more clear. But anyways, for today, the information that we have, this is the July expenditures. As we can see, the legal assistance program took the majority of funds from this past month. Also important to note, and that you can't see here, HSP, as we know, did reopen, but that program reports a month behind. So while it has started and has been going out this month, we won't see that until next month. But I'll make sure to highlight that then too, just so we have an understanding of the money that is going out the door.
I have a question. Kyle.
Sure.
So that homeowners assistance dollars, that's 2023 or before dollars, that's pretty.
Yes.
Out the outstanding
Yeah.
projects?
Absolutely. And by the looks of it, that
It's getting close.
I think that's exactly one project that is represented there.
Yeah,
I can't
totally.
remember from the list, but 35 is a
Looks
suspicious
like
number.
You're right about that.
It could have been bits and pieces of other programs, projects put together, but yeah, that seems like one project. So, yep. And then for the 2024 expenditures, we can see rental gap maintaining its #1 position as the program we've put the most money towards. That's usually true. Some of our smaller programs haven't changed at all. The small landlord fund and the for sale development program have been pretty much the same for the past few months. We haven't had any projects with them recently, but I know we're working on one for the small landlord. I'm not sure about for sale, but likely some coming down the pipe soon. So we might be seeing some change there. Homeowners assistance, as we've been talking about, that you're gonna see some changes there. But right now, it is about where we'd expect it to be. And the housing stabilization, again, has been static, but will continue to increase now that that new allocation has gone out. So yep, that's the state of the expenditures as of the end of July. And yeah, any additional questions on this?
So I went to do the math of how many homeowners assistance we were doing, but that's not the individuals that are going out the door of our outstanding projects, is it?
For the homeowners assistance program?
Yeah.
Yes, that's several prior years. So it's what you're looking at here, even though it's expended in 2024, it could be from earlier years of allocation.
Yes.
Oh, I'm
It's putting the
forgetting
commitments
zeros.
out.
Pardon me. Always do this. That's 31 families.
Yes, that's 31.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a pretty standard thing as far as I'm aware. So that's about what we would expect to see.
So any questions, follow up with the URA expenditures and updates? I just have one item as part of the adjournment. So again, as we started the allocation planning, it is critical for all of our members we've lost so many members. It's critical for all of us to show up. And just the other guidance I would like to provide, that we haven't talked about in many years, is folks were asked to join this advisory so that we could have a 360 perspective. There is unlimited need out there, as Ellie brought up multiple times related to homeowner repairs. There's an unlimited need. We have limited funds. So we're really trying in these allocation conversations to bring the 360. Sometimes it can be hard to let go some of our personal preferences, but it's really important when we're dialoguing that these dollars are limited and we want to have the, most robust impact that meets community need. So if we can all get ourselves, do a little shake off, shoulder roll, and be ready, we might have to have a tough conversation. And that's not because anyone doesn't think any of this is unimportant. But we really need to come ready to think globally, collaboratively, from the best perspective that we can about leveraging other funds. So please, in these next couple of weeks as we get ready for September 5th, try to get to the best place we can in our mindsets of global need that we're not going to fill. And we're all coming to this from the best place of respect. But we're not going to allow anyone in these meetings to hijack the conversation so that we can't have a robust one about all need. In the next few meetings, we may have community groups showing up in force because they would like to really get their need at the top of the list. And, we are going to be as respectful and responsive to that as we can, but nobody's going to hijack these allocation meetings. I just want to prep us all ahead. We had a very rough time last year with people who would not get off their topic. That does not do justice to our community. So we're going to put some time frames. I haven't even talked to the URA about this, but for next meeting, we're going to put some time frames on the discussion times, because we are not going to go into a rabbit hole of the same point over and over and over again. And everybody's going to have a chance to speak. There will not be 2 speakers for the entire meeting. Everyone, I'm going to shut you off if I have to, and I'm going to give other members an opportunity to talk about things that that they bring to the table that we need to hear, because you're all here because of your unique expertise. So I just want to set the stage. I cherish all of you. If something feels like it's a little sharp, it's because we really do want to do justice to this process. And I feel like last year we were a little off. So it's not a sign of disrespect in any way, but we are going to have some time frames. We are going to, limit the members to how long we're going to discuss our personal preferences. So I just wanted to put that out there. I never want anybody to be surprised. And I also don't want anybody to feel, especially new members, like you're not being given enough space. The reason we're going to do that is so everybody has space. And I can't wait to hear what we're going to talk about. I think this is going to be an amazing year conversation. Even though we're small, we're going to be mighty. But please get these on your calendar now. The next few, if you're not able to come, if you could let us know as soon as possible. We would like to get some feedback from you before the meeting, because that will be critical too. There's not enough of us to not get that robust conversation going. So if November's meeting doesn't work for you, please make sure you let us know. If there's anything you need to weigh in on or a vote that you'd like to cast, if we can get that ahead of time. Typically that's not our process, but we only have half of us right now. And maybe everybody's feeling okay about that, but I am not. I am concerned that the group is too small. I'm concerned that we're not going to hear voices that we need to hear. So we will continue to diligently work with the mayor's office, but asking a person that's appointed in October to robustly participate in the allocation plan does not make sense. So we're going to do our best. If we can all just come with that spirit, I think we're going to knock it out of the park this year. So thank you for everything you've already done and you will do. And I appreciate you letting me take a minute to just sort of set the stage for next time.
Yeah, thank you for your leadership, Adrian. we definitely appreciate it. And we got some big meetings coming up, so definitely important to lay the groundwork. Just a quick logistical point before we, do the official adjournment. It does say up there location TBD for next month for September 5th. We may come back to this room. The URA may have the conference room open in the basement. We may go to a secret undecided third place. We're still figuring it out. There are a few factors in play about this. So just keep a close eye on your email, especially if you're someone that prefers coming in person. Of course, the Zoom will still be available, will still be live streamed. So nothing there will change, but the actual physical location may not be this room. So just keep an eye on those emails that I send out. We'll make it as clear as possible, and let me know if you have any questions or added difficulties based on the new place, and we'd be happy to help figure that out.
We always take a motion to adjourn. We usually don't have trouble getting someone to make a motion to adjourn. Do we have a motion?
Ellie Fisher, motion to adjourn.
Ellie Fisher has moved. We do not need a second. Thank you to everyone for your commitment and your great thinking. Looking forward to seeing you in September.